Okay, so I'm Elaine Gould, Director of Student Services for the division, and we want to assure you, first off, is that all of your student services and accommodations that are included in their IEPs or their 504 plans will be delivered as written. If there are special circumstances for some of our students, then those will be handled individually in their IEP team meetings. So we do have a plan for meeting with all of our related service providers on Monday morning already. We've been on the phone with them this weekend about looking at the related services that are offered through the division. So we have a plan in place for that to make sure that they're delivered as efficiently as possible. We have our special programs. We have called individually home to those students who are involved in our special programs. Each of the schools that are here tonight have special programs included in their buildings. So we've provided our communication support program, our multiple disabilities program. They will meet Monday through Friday when they begin school. We have called individually to all of their parents and assured them that their services will continue.
So we had several questions and you just answered all of them.
Oh, great.
So thank you.
We need to turn your microphone on as well, Dr. State. It's on the microphone. I think I hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. So these questions are for Dr. Carroll's team.
Okay.
And Dr. Butler as well. So the first question is, what plans are being made for children, particularly sixth graders, who may not be able to be home alone for extended periods of time?
Okay. I'm going to defer to you on the sixth grader. If there's somebody else, there's...
I'll give the best sixth grade answer I can give. I have a sixth grader who will be at home. And we're going to raise his accountability level in the next, until May 22nd. So we're going to implement some strategies at home, but for the greater community, we are attempting to work with our partners. We're trying to work with the county. Having some conversations with Parks and Rec, and also trying to find space. So we're working on opportunities. This question came up at the last session as well. But I would say, again, parents have different perspectives, and many of the parents that stayed after were with their sixth grader, and they said, we love her, however, or we love him, however. So it's going to be a personal choice how parents handle that, but we are currently working with our partners to see if we can put something together. That will not be ready for Monday, but I can tell you we are working on it. Thank you.
And the second part of these questions, for Saturday conflicts in particular, regarding folks who may have religious commitments on Saturdays, students who miss for prior athletic or work commitments on Saturdays, how does missing school on Saturdays affect student attendance?
Thank you. To answer that question, the Virginia Department of Education, they already provide exceptions and excused absences for certain events such as that. So again, religious holidays are an excused absence. Pre-planned absences can also be approved by the building principal. We have guidelines for that in our code of conduct and our handbook. We will also be working with our school administrators, and as Mrs. Skinner shared earlier, we're also looking at blended learning opportunities so those students will not fall behind academically, because clearly they still want to do the work that they missed on those days when they're unable to attend.
Thank you.
Okay, the next set of questions is for Ms. Skinner.
Before I speak, I just want to again compliment. I am so proud of our schools and the work that they're doing to prepare our students. I was just sitting over there. My daughter's one of the students impacted, and I just have to say thank you for you and your staff for everything that you're doing. Amazing.
So the first question is, how will you ensure that students do not fall behind?
So one of the ways that we are looking, as I shared earlier, was through some virtual opportunities. But it's going to also really be important that our teachers are working and connecting with our students. Every instructional minute is important. and every student is important. And so we are known in York County for being a top school division in the state of Virginia, and that is not going to change. We have teachers that are amazing, and they are preparing lessons. They're going to optimize their instructional time to make sure that our students are getting a rigorous instruction. I'm very passionate about that. Our principals, as you can tell, are very passionate about that. However, I do know the complexities that exist when you're going to school every other day. And so our team, the instructional team, is working through options and opportunities right now. Dr. Wrights and I have been talking about that. We're looking at what our technology can do to help us in this situation. We're looking to see what are some ways that we can support some of our most rigorous courses, our AP courses, our IB courses, our SOA courses. What can we do to help give additional support and instruction to our students during those times as well? So we're committed, and I can't give you a specific answer of what we're going to do, but I can tell you a lot of it is just about attitude and being very purposeful with what instructional time that we have face-to-face with our students. And that I can promise you will happen.
We had the same question at our last forum, and it seems to be reoccurring about homework. Will there be an increase in our homework load?
Homework should remain just as it is. Homework is actually just additional practice for what you're learning in school. It's really not new information. Homework should never be something that students never seen before, but an opportunity to reinforce what they're learning. What you may see differently is some of the opportunities that we can do where we teach things maybe virtually on some of those days where students are not in school. We're really hoping to provide a structure that will allow our students to have opportunities to be with our teachers either virtually or face-to-face on days when they're not in schools. So it should not be homework. Homework should really not change, as I shared, but there'll be additional opportunities in what is typically set up right now in our schools for students to engage in instruction.
And that just answers our next question of what students are to do on those non-school days to keep on top of their schoolwork. And I think you just answered that. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Butler said clean the house, but I have other thoughts that, that our teachers will be working with our students on that.
Ms. Goff, I think this next question is for you. Can Grafton students go to other York County School Division schools to volunteer on the days they are not in school?
Okay, I do love this question. Those of you who have been following Facebook or anything have been talking about opportunities for our students to be getting back to our community on their days that they're not in. So in addition to cleaning the house, Dr. Butler, and studying, this has really been amazing for us to watch our community say, not just how can they help us, but how could our students be giving back to those community organizations. And one of the questions that we have had is often about, could the students come into our schools and start volunteering right there, supporting other teachers and other students in there? And just how can we bring more students into the other buildings or these buildings while they're not in the classroom? We definitely welcome this. We think it's an amazing opportunity for our students to see service learning happening. But we're gonna ask you to hold off on that for 2 weeks. We've said to you, we promise not to make adjustments to this new plan within the first 2 weeks so we can all settle in and see what we need to tweak. Our students need a routine, our teachers need a routine as we're starting this. The less we add into that in these first 2 weeks as we're developing it, the better off everyone is gonna be. So I know kids might be anxious to go back and visit a teacher at Grafton Bethel Elementary or at Tabb Elementary School and help them out during the day. We're gonna work on a plan to see if that can happen. Just give us about 2 weeks before we start trying to bring in extra people into those buildings while they're teaching. Okay, thank you. Does that cover everything?
I have one additional question.
And who will that question be for?
This question will be for Mr. Bowen and Dr. Vladu. This is a question about our staff. How does this schedule affect our hourly employees?
Thank you for that question. I'm Bill Bowen, I'm the Chief Financial Officer. And for the employees, I just wanted to put their minds at ease. We are committed to honoring your contract, your daily rate. So if this schedule in any way alters the number of hours you're working in a day, if you're working less hours, we're gonna honor that daily contract rate. So you won't see any less pay. On the flip side, if you happen to work more hours, you will be compensated for those additional hours.
Good evening, I'm Tony Vladu, Chief Human Resources Officer. And again, it takes a team to make this work. I know our teachers are critical components, but so are our support staff. Our team has identified 24 positions, and they all have different hours and contracts. What we want to assure you is that they will have all of those hours. In some position, actually, we may we'll have opportunities for overtime. But again, we wanted to assure you of our commitment to making sure that no one loses any compensation as a result of this event.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you for that. So we'd like to stay with some themes because I think it works for our team here is if the same person is available to keep going on the topic. So what we're going to say is, let's talk about transportation because I think that is a question people feel needs to be addressed by Monday and Tuesday, correct? So if you have a question related to transportation, you can come to either of the mics here at the front of the auditorium. And what we'll do is we'll alternate sides. And then when we're done with the transportation questions, if there's none of those, we can move into questions related to instruction. So does anyone want to come forward with questions related to our transportation program for students at this time?
There was a parent that asked about ROTC, and that wasn't really mentioned in the transportation.
Okay, so, we do have someone coming forward with transportation questions. Thank you.
Not necessarily a bus transportation question, but a crossing guard. I know it works for transportation. Will there be a crossing guard at these schools on Saturdays to help deconflict with the drop-off and pickup times?
Yes, thank you. The crossing guards will be among other staff that will be staffing on Saturday, and that includes school board officers and personnel. This now becomes a 6-day week for us, and we certainly will have that. In addition to that, we had a question from the first session asking about the flashing lights in the school zones. In the old days, those were programmed all at the individual sites, the individual poles, but that's something that's computerized now, and those are already being reworked so that the Saturdays are involved. Thank you.
What about the students who live in other counties that go to York County schools? I have 4 students that go to York County schools and we live in the Newport News side. So how is that going to affect their transportation?
Sorry about that. All right. As is usual, when you are coming in from outside the district, you're responsible for your own transportation. That remains the same, even though it wouldn't be what you've anticipated before.
Well, right now they do have a bus that picks them up.
If you have a bus, then you're still going to get transportation.
Same bus. Gonna be.
Yes, same bus.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Before I let you go, Dr. Carroll, one of the other questions that we are getting a lot online and on the notes is the transportation for our specialty programs. The students who might have their School of the Arts or those types of programs at Monday through Friday.
Right, so I'm sorry, I thought I addressed that earlier. Those routes are being worked on right now, and anybody who has a student in those programs is going to get a personal call from the department before the end of Sunday. And if you do not receive such a call the transportation department Monday morning, and they'll get to work on it.
Real specific ROTC, we have worked very closely with Commander Wooten here at Tabb and with Lieutenant Commander Fortune at York, and students, whether they're Grafton High students going to Tabb or York ROTC, they're going to have ROTC at York. Commander Wooten and his staff is actually going to come over on the Grafton High School days and instruct the Grafton ROTC kids here. So they will have their instructor. If you go to York for ROTC, they'll have their instructor. So we've completely solved the ROTC issue for our kids. So they still have their teacher, whether they were going to go to Tabb or they were going to go to York. As far as the special transportation on off days, because that's a question we're also getting, you're receiving phone calls from our staff to ensure that on New Horizons days where maybe you're not in school, so for
Monday, Wednesday,
Friday for Grafton High students, we're looking at who actually needs bus transportation and how we're going to get them there from their home to New Horizons and vice versa.
So the plan as of now, I know in a temporary situation, we had a central drop-off, and then from that central drop-off, they were taken. But in this, transportation will be reaching out to you this weekend, and they'll be doing house pickups. So whether it's New Horizons, School of the Arts, Gov School, they're reaching out, and we will make sure transportation is provided Monday through Friday.
Okay, so we can begin accepting instruction, questions related to instruction that Ms. Skinner and Dr. Gould will be able to answer. And again, if you could just please come to the microphone so we can hear. Huh?
I got a question.
Oh, he's
For absences. So my daughter, for example, is already committed for 8 out of the 10 Saturdays. Do they need to bring a note in, or just say,
Yes, sir. No, same thing that's currently in the handbook. You would just provide a note for that and submit it to the school, and then we will also be trying to
who
work.
makes that determination? Because right now, it was already planned on all these days off. So who makes that determination that she's actually be excused?
No, the Code of Virginia allows for local school divisions to allow the building principal and our department to work together on that. So once we get that information, Ms. Cataldo, yes, she'll be working on that.
She's taking care of him, yep. But at the same time, even with it being an excused absence, I want to make sure that we're continuing to provide instruction. And so that's where our department is going to be putting that plan in place and doing everything we can possible, that even if your child has to miss it, we're going to try to provide that instruction.
I got one more question. Well, specifically kind of for you.
Thank you.
But my daughter's stuff's in the school, and I've already had one of the teachers send out email. So prior to that, though, all her notebooks are in the school and all her backup notes. Now, is she going to get the notes? Because I don't want a response stating, get them from your friends. I don't want that. I want my daughter to be supplied with the notes, because it's a whole year's worth of stuff in the notebooks that are still in school.
You said your daughter's on the high school side?
Yes.
We're pretty confident that we'll be able to get all those materials back to the students, their notebooks, their book bags, anything that they left in the school. We're fairly confident we should be able to do that. By Tuesday, no, not by Tuesday, hopefully sometime next week.
But the teacher.
And how's that going to go out?
We're going to have to communicate that as we develop our plan, as we go in there, so we'll be communicating through the schools and developing the setup for that.
Let me share one thing that Mr. Dolek has responded to us on this before. This is not we're not going to be addressing this as once the whole school has been released. So every time the company gives us an update that they've gotten a hallway, different classrooms, different sections of lockers, we're going to be communicating out so that we can get those people, we're going to get it to you as quickly as we can. Every time we get an area or a student's possession or their classwork in a classroom for the teacher resources, we are mobilizing that. Our team and the company are working very closely so we can get these back into your hands as quickly as possible. We have to follow the state health regulations on this, okay?
And as far as the work that is missing, we are talking to teachers. All of us are talking to teachers about the fact that your students might not have everything that they need because they didn't anticipate that they wouldn't be back in the building. So teachers are making accommodations. We are running extra copies. We are making those notes. I'm sure Ms. Cataldo's group is doing the same thing. My students, they use lockers in middle school, so most of our stuff is still locked up. We are supplying students with notebooks and folders and pens and papers. We're going to make sure that they have what they need to be successful. And if you don't get that, you call one of us and you let us know, because that's not what should be happening. So we're not everywhere. We can't be in every classroom. So if you're getting any pushback, let us know. But the teachers are being reasonable and flexible, and we're working with kids.
And then I want to add one more. I also want to add that the teachers can't get their stuff either. So we're all kind of in it together with the kids, and so we're all being very understanding. And like Ms. Anthony said, there's a lot of things that their notes are saved in electronic copies, so we're coming up with ways to get those copies for them.
One more. Athletics. Are athletics still going to go on?
Yes, we're gonna, I know you want to ask that question, but I promised that we would focus on instruction right now. So we will get to our extracurricular activities in just a few minutes, but I want to focus on Ms. Skinner being able to answer those instruction-based questions, but we'll get back to those.
Yes, I have a question regarding the days off when the children are not in school. Can you hear me? Okay, great, thank you. I have a, first of all, thank you. I know that you guys are working very hard, and I do appreciate that. I have a question about the days off. I do actually have a sixth grader that goes here, not here, that goes to Tabb Middle School. And as you guys know, the children benefit from the instruction and the structure. Are you guys going to give us guidelines for how to help on their days off to remain focused throughout the day? And when will we get those details? As much details as you can that I would benefit. I am not an instructor or educator, so that would really, really be helpful.
But as a parent, you're one of the greatest instructors of your children, and so we appreciate that. I think that's good feedback for us to hear, that we need to work with our teachers and give our children some opportunities and some guidelines about this is what you should be doing when you're not with us. And again, we're hoping to have some technology options open that will give them some real specific things that they can log into, see, and do.
Yeah, and I'm thinking in my mind, if I can just continue with the blocks, blocks of time. Parents have flexibility, but as much flexibility in structure would be really helpful. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that feedback.
I have a question pertaining to getting additional help resources for tutoring on Tuesday and Thursday afternoon for Tabb Middle School, because those are the only days that activity buses have been available to Tabb Middle. So if that's no longer available, how do kids get tutoring?
I'm going to let Ms. Young come over and talk about that. I think she has a plan in place as far as the buses.
So yes, Tuesdays and Thursdays were our activity bus days. Clearly, we're going to have to change that. So once transportation, everything is running smoothly, we're going to get those activity bus days back for either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a couple of them in there. We've got teachers who stay after school all the time to help our kids, and that's not going to go away. We're still going to be doing that.
Yes.
Good evening. I'd like to say thank you for your great work and the fantastic communication. It's appreciated. My question is regarding something you had, Ms. Skinner, in your presentation earlier regarding the waivers.
Yes.
Am I to take that the waiver is still on the table, potentially?
And I'll ask Dr. Carroll if he wants to join me at the table. We have not approached the waiver right now. We investigated it, we discussed it, but I am really working with the Department of Education to look at what our options are for supplementing some of our Saturday instruction as much as possible. And so there are some opportunities that we're hoping that VDOE will allow us to pursue. The problem is, if you remember at the very beginning, I shared that Grafton is really looking at days, and York and Tabb are hours.
Sure.
And so sometimes hours don't equal days in the way that the current policy is set up. So we're working on trying to do maybe a blended model in regards to meeting that requirement.
Excellent. And so my follow-on to that would be, as a military family that will be PCSing, I appreciate that you may not be able to answer this question this evening, but the point to keep in mind is, at what point would it be communicated? Should we roll into an extended beyond I think 11 June is the end date? So if there's a sense as to when that would be communicated, so not just military families, but the balance of the York families could prepare.
Okay, so she's asking about when are we going to know if we're going to extend. Right now, the current plan meets the need. So we're not in a waiver situation. What would happen is, if we had a snow event in these next 5 weeks. You all know I'm against snow as a general thing. So it would be, right now, we qualify. We meet the needs. We don't even have to apply for a waiver, so we're okay. And so if we were to have something like that, then that would put us in a situation where we'd either have to ask for the waiver or just add additional time.
I'll keep my fingers crossed.
And you would know at that time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
So I was going to
sorry.
I think we're going back and forth, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Go ahead. Hello? Yes. I think we can hear you. Now I'll repeat the question.
I just want to say thanks for having this time for everyone here. I think it's really important. I'm an educator myself. I'm a professor at a college. I'm
a graduate of Tabb High School in the mid-90s. I graduated over 20 years. I may not look it, but I have. My major concern that I have in York County schools, which I think is a great system, that's why I brought my kids here. I have a 10th grader in Grafton, is that I'm noticing that the grades been put in Aspen have been put in 60 days, 45 days late, sometimes even a little bit more than 60 days. So it's very hard to keep up with your child to help them if grades are being put in 60 days late. As an educator myself, I make sure that I put it in within a 2-week time period, and I can see that this being in effect to the children, because if we don't have a clear, concise plan now, how soon are the grades going to go in? Is the excuse going to be, oh, I'm sorry, but we know that we're going through all this stuff? To me, that's not an excuse. Because there's other ways to get things done, but that makes a major concern for me because I want to make sure that my child stays abreast of what's going on, and if they are lacking in any way, especially with students who have SOLs this year, that they're able to help their students as much as they can and as quickly as they can without having to go outside to go put their child in some type of tutoring where they can get that extra help.
Thank you for that feedback. Even when we have a normal schedule operating, it's not okay to get grades 4 and 6 weeks late. Grades, the expectation is that our teachers are placing grades every 2 weeks. And so we can certainly work with our teachers to make sure that we're meeting that requirement, especially in a situation like this. It's very important that we stay up to date on those things. I appreciate that feedback.
Every year that my student has been in school, whether it's been elementary, middle, or high school, it's been 60 days. It's like, okay, we'll put some in when midterms come. We'll put in a little bit before then, but we'll just have to wait until sometimes the last day that you put it in, so students aren't able to have their parents to connect with the teachers because they're putting it in at the last minute, and that's unacceptable.
I agree. Can you email me or touch base with me so we can talk and make sure that it does not happen anymore? Because I do apologize. That should not be happening. So I'd love to reach out and talk some more.
If you're here at the end, Ms. Capaldi can reach out to you. Yes. She'll come over and talk with you some more.
Thank you.
Hi. Good evening. My question was around Extend. So the Extend, we got the message that it'll be on Mondays now. But they, like 1A and 1B usually used to be alternating. So now they will, if they do go to Extend, are they going to miss the same classes every week?
Michelle, can you come up and, she has an answer for you, but I want everyone to hear it in case somebody else has that question.
Yes,
Okay.
Tabb is going to be going on Mondays, Grafton is going to be going on Tuesdays. We can talk about whether, because it did alternate before, so we can see if we can make those arrangements to have it switch. So I will get in touch with Ms. Spires and
Yeah, because otherwise they'll miss the same
otherwise
skill
it's the same
level.
class. We'll work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This question isn't specifically for you, but just for the school system in general. I'd like to throw out some figures going off of the York County calendar for the 2019-2020 school year. So with the Virginia requirements, currently, according to the calendar, there's about 29.5 days off for teacher work days, holidays, etc. It appears that the students are attending school 41.8 weeks approximately for the entire year. Our student is in Tabb Middle at about 6 3/4 hours a day. So prior to this reduction of days attending school, that would put it at 179.5, which does not meet the 180 threshold, which equates to about 1,211 hours. If you subtract the 990 required, that's 221. Now this reduces it by 28 days, about 189 hours less, which only leaves 32.625 hours available to meet the requirements, which is less than 5 sick days out of the year. So my question or suggestion is, why could we not utilize areas that are already existing, such as this auditorium, for our high school students, which they are going to be in that kind of environment when they go on to college. And also our high school students already have programs like New Horizons or Work Co-op and so forth that does not require them to have a full day of learning. So I know myself when I was in high school, if I could get out of school earlier in the day, I would take that opportunity. So why not reduce the required classes for them? Because a lot of the students, like seniors especially, might not even need all their classes for graduation requirements, which would open up available classrooms, and we could consolidate the high school students. 3 classes easily could fit in here for, say, government. And the teachers could work together. The teaching requirements are basically based off the SOL requirement. So from one teacher to another, it's pretty similar. But in that way, like, one teacher could have that side, another could have this side, another could have this side after the instruction to answer any questions specific to the students they already have relations with. I don't understand why we need to reduce and rotate the schedule, because it's going to cause a huge hindrance for families, especially 2-income families. And I just think that there's other ways that we could do this, and we might be able to get some advice from Page Middle School in Gloucester, you know, that had the tornado. You know, they mobilized trailers and so forth. So I think there could be some improvement upon the schedule.
I appreciate that feedback, and I'd love to talk to you more about the calculations that you've done. If you want to meet me afterward, or Dr. Carroll as well. We put a lot of thought and effort as he kind of went through those different options, and we looked at every situation. Would I say that we looked at that exact situation? Maybe not. But there are some things that, you know, we really felt were important for our children, and that was keeping them to their teachers and keeping instruction as consistent as possible for them. You know, the gentleman earlier spoke about someone doesn't have their notes. You know, think about our students walking into class Tuesday without the materials that they had within the last time they were there, and then walking in to a new teacher on top of that. There's some familiarity of staying with a teacher that we tried to value and prioritize in that list of considerations. So I do appreciate your thoughts, and some of those are well thought out. It's not, and we've put in there that, you know, we're giving ourselves a 2-week window to look at where we made good decisions and where we should have maybe made a different decision, with some opportunities from our community and some patients that we may have to make a few changes along the way. And we're open to parents. We've had a lot of parents reach out and share ideas, and we've actually incorporated some of those. You know, parents who've reached out to me, and I know Dr. Carroll and Dr. Shandor as well.
Well, one of the biggest, I guess, burdens is the logistics of the children and, you know, the parents' schedules and so forth. But a lot of your high school students, you know, York High, Tabb High, they're in New Horizons, Co-op, and so forth, and they provide themselves transportation, a large amount of them, to and from school. But our students in middle school don't have that freedom, and the parents don't either. So why not free up the schedules of the high schoolers that don't have to meet the same requirements, they just have to meet credit hour requirements, to allocate room for our students to go to school every day and not extend into summer, spring break, or cause a burden on the families.
Well, I appreciate your suggestion, sir, and we would certainly you know, take a plan that you have and look at it. But first of all, we have to keep to the hours or the days, and that was the driving factor in this decision. And then sometimes when you talk about putting multiple students in one room, that is untenable. Sometimes you're talking about a lecture. Certainly, if this was a college lecture hall and we were going to cover the same material and then break up, that's actually a model I used in a middle school I used to be a principal of, and we had 3 or 4 teachers that were team teaching. But that worked for that subject, but the auditorium was taken up by one subject for the entire day. So then that begs the question, what do you do with the rest of the subjects? So I think that's certainly something we have to look at and measure, but that was a much more complicated and complex you know, plan than what we've come up with. So why don't I get your name and number after the session, we'll talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, the gymnasium could be used in an auditorium setting too. Yeah. So, I'm just thinking like.
Well, you have to remember we also have PE that we have to do. Yes, sir. I'll talk to you afterward. Let me get your contact info.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. We all appreciate your effort to putting together such a great plan. I know it's a lot of work. And my question is kind of related to that part, to how to better use the resources. My question is, if the other school, like this school, can share a day and will not be, less stress on other schools. Why Tabb High is left out?
Why was Tabb High left off?
Yeah.
When we looked at the our options, and I'll reiterate what Dr. Carroll shared, and please tell me if I've missed anything. But when we looked at our different options, we really looked at some of the opportunities our students would have at each campus, and we looked at York High School, the space, the parking, the learning commons, the fields, those types of things all played a part in that. And so we felt like the best situation for the Grafton High School students was York High campus. And we really wanted to lessen the burden on one community. And so that's why we chose the Tabb Middle School site from there. We took a lot of different considerations into factoring that. And so that was our rationale.
Yeah, we just worried so much. We already lost, 4 days. And look at the schedule. You can lose a lot of days. And you can use the Tabb High as another alternative. So we get 1 more day at least for each week, right? We have so many seniors now, not seniors. Seniors not a big deal anymore. The juniors, the 10th grade, okay? They really need to make up the time, the hours.
And I appreciate what you're sharing, and I would like to talk to you
Yeah,
some more
also,
after this about that idea.
Personally, I don't see a whole lot of stress on the transportation, because if they don't go to Grafton, they go to another school. It's not a big changes there, as far as I can see.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
I would just add on the technology piece that, yes, it would be similar, but it might adjust the times, and that's something we have to look into.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I hope everybody had a great week, and I appreciate all y'all communication. I got a couple questions. My first question is, and I may have missed this, what are the exact dates for the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays ending?
I believe it's May 22nd as of right now, yes.
May 22nd. My next question, as far as spring break goes, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the spring break would start on the 3rd, or the beginning date would be that Friday on the 3rd. If I'm not mistaken, they would go back on the 13th. So since we're doing Saturday.
Dr. Butler, do you have the calendar there? Do you want to speak to that?
I didn't finish the question.
Hold on, no, he is our calendar.
Okay.
I apologize.
No, it's fine. So it was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they would be out of school on Friday, which is the 3rd, and then they would come back that Monday, which is the 13th, for April. No, is that wrong?
No, they would be in school that Friday. Spring break wouldn't start until that following Monday to that.
Well, yes, that's what I'm saying. So, but they would usually get out on a Friday. They would have the weekend, and then they would start Monday. They would go back the following Monday. So my question is, now that they have school on Saturday, would it start?
No. So neither of the Saturdays surrounding spring break are affected. Those are not, so when we did have a question about whether it was 10 consecutive Saturdays. So when we had a holiday or a break in there, we recognize, and that's a question, is why didn't we touch these? Okay, so number one, President's Day, it's a week away. Parents and families have a commitment already to those time frames. We did not want to affect that this close to President's Day. That's why we did not schedule President's Day as a makeup day. Spring break, we recognize our families and our staff have commitments already made to those times. So we would have been making a major impact in that week if we had tried to bring students in. So that's one reason why those dates were protected within the schedule we developed.
I understand that. My question is, though, it says the spring break doesn't start until that Monday, right? So that means that the students from Grafton Middle will only have school on Tuesday and Thursday, not on Saturday.
Of that week, you're right.
So that means they'll be off 2 Saturdays instead of just the one.
Correct.
Okay. And then my next question is, since the days are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for Tabb, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for Grafton, and I know we're talking about, or you guys were talking about, sorry, like a computer-based type of thing. Will it be something where, though, on those days that they're off, that they have like a computer-based instruction, where it be like a homeschooling option almost, so they would be able to be online?
So when you say homeschooling, are you saying that the student would still be a York County student? You're not saying withdrawing and homeschooling?
No.
Okay.
I'm talking about, would they be able to get on the computer and maybe do work? I know that Mrs. Zimmerman, I mean to call her out, but I know she's really good with saying, hey, these are something that they can do at home, to work on those assignments, like there will be classroom instruction. So is there any option with the other teachers doing the same thing, so that way the students are still working while they're at home? so they're not at home. I mean, again, as parents, we're the primary educators, right? So for those that are at work or they aren't able to give their students that way they will be able to log online and have the option to do work while they're at home versus, you know, doing work cleaning or whatever else.
I did not say cleaning, FYI. Yes, that is our intention, is to look for all those opportunities that we can put together, because we do have teachers like Mrs. Zimmerman you're mentioning. We have many others that do a lot of that type of work with their students and provide that support, but not all of our teachers are as set up to do that yet. And one of the options in our plan is that we will have teachers where we can do some professional development right out the gate, because they will not have students in classes, that we can begin to work with our IT department to set this up. And that is our intention. I can't tell you what that will look like right now, but it is our intention to provide an interactive environment of some sort for our students.
One more question. Will they have to make up that Saturday that they'll be out of school? They only have 2 days that week, so they'll have 2 days out of school. Okay.
Hi, good evening. My concern is the book situation for the middle schoolers, since they're used to being on the alternating day schedule, and so they don't have to bring all of the books. I know my son, on even those days, his backpack is already full. So what are we going to do about those kids bringing books for every class?
That question came up earlier in our other forum. I'm gonna let these two principals talk about that because they've already thought that through.
Okay.
So we are not using lockers in part because Grafton doesn't have them, and we don't want to take so much time in transition when you have that many blocks. We want to protect as much instructional time as we can. Our teachers are making spaces in classrooms to store some of their materials because it is not feasible for them to carry 8 blocks worth of materials to one class. If we have special circumstances where someone needs a locker, we will make sure they've got that. But like I said, we're going to store as much as we can as far as textbooks, big binders, and those sorts of things in classrooms for their use. Same thing with our Grafton kids.
Have you, I don't know how feasible this would be, but having, you know, back in the old days, we had a classroom set of books that stayed in the classroom?
Yes, ma'am, that's where we're going back to the old school.
All right, thank you.
Yes, and the teachers have been assigned to the room they teach, so assigned 6 teachers going to be in the assigned 6 classroom where all their materials will be.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, so I have concerns with the workload because my brother and I are in 5 and 6 AP classes, which is a lot for one day. And if the workload's the same, I was wondering how we can handle that without burning out.
Okay, can you tell me the first part of your question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So I have concerns with the workload because my brother and I are in 5 and 6 AP classes. So if like the workload's the same, how are we gonna like keep on track without burning out?
That is a really good question, and that's something that for me as a chief academic officer, I want to make sure that the rigor is there, but at the same time, I want to make sure our students that are in our rigorous classes understand that we have passion and compassion in this situation. And so one of the things that we are doing is we are reaching out to College Board, who manages those AP courses. Because as you know, there's an AP assessment that comes up soon, right? And we don't really get to choose that date, they do. We're reaching out to see if they can give us any leeway. Typically that's not allowed, but we're gonna see what the opportunities are to give our students a little more time. For parents, I'm sure you're most interested in this, there was a new process this year where you had to pay ahead of time if your student was gonna take an AP course. And so we need to check to see if a student chooses not to do that, then what are our options for parents in regards to that? And then also working with our AP teachers to, just like, you know how when you start in the summer and we give a little bit of work up front in AP courses, and parents, if you don't know why we do that because other schools in Virginia start earlier than we do. And so by them starting earlier, they have about a 2-week access to curriculum instruction before our students do, but we all take the test at the same time. And so we front load information in the summer to our AP students to get them kind of up and running and giving them the needed information so they can start the curriculum quickly. And so we're going to need to work with our AP teachers about this. No, it's not our intention that everything be given to you the day off and you're just working for hours and hours and hours, right? Because that's a lot of AP courses that you're taking. I can see that right now. Yes, it is.
Can I jump in a little bit?
Sure, yes.
Yes. Our
students, hello, so good to see you here. Great question. I had this question at the other forum, and what we're doing is that it's going to be the homework will match the time frame in class. So since you're only going to be 50 minutes, the homework will be matching that. So you're not going to be having maybe hours and hours, but it'll be lessened to maybe just a little bit. So the teachers know that. The other thing that I wanted to reassure the other family I spoke with is that there is a guide for what AP teachers should teach, kind of like a blueprint, and they have an idea of how many questions come from certain areas. So our AP teachers have sat down, they've looked at that so they can really narrow the focus to make sure that when they're looking at what they're teaching, that they're shaping that curriculum to really, really tailor exactly what you're gonna need or that think you'll need for the exam. So they're talking about it, so don't worry about it, don't get stressed. We're gonna work together with that, but thank you for that question.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the lockers. It was already kind of explained, but I was wondering if you could just elaborate that.
I will try. If not, I'm pretty sure one of the two principals can.
And also, I want to include the gym lockers because that wasn't really factored in. So.
What's your question? How are we going to use the gym lockers? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and like, are we gonna like split them? Are we gonna not have them? How are we gonna like just like deal with all that? And like, are we gonna carry our book bags to our like classes during the day? Or
So her question, if you didn't hear, is how are they going to work gym lockers? Are they going to carry their books throughout the day? Gym clothes, things like that, right?
Yes.
So we are going to have you carry, and middle schoolers are dying to carry their backpacks to class, from class to class. It's kind of funny because at the high schools, they typically do that and they want to be more like the high schoolers. So we are going to have you carry backpacks from class to class. We haven't had a great chance to communicate with our gym teachers for them to decide as far as changing out, but I don't think we're going to be doing the change out for classes because it's been such a quick turnaround. Grafton is for sure not doing it, and Tabb is most likely not doing it.
Okay. Also, like, are we gonna like just keep all our books and stuff at home and then bring everything in one bag to school in the morning and then just go from class to class?
I'll come talk to you.
Okay.
We're going to store as much as we can in classrooms so that you're not carrying these enormous backpacks.
All right.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
And we're going to send a lot of those logistic answers home in an email. Okay, so you'll get that this weekend.
Thank you.
Yes. I just wanted to say, first of all, I have a 6th grader in Tabb Middle, and I understand that this is an inconvenience to everybody. It's an inconvenience to my family. First of all, I have to say I am very grateful that you guys decided not to send both schools to the Tabb district. I also have a kid here in the high school, and that would be crazy. As it is, we're gonna have transportation shifts. You know, my big thing is I wanted to thank everybody for all the work you guys are doing to make sure that everybody's kids are covered and that every need is met of our kids. I just wanted to throw a couple ideas out there at you guys. What can us parents who I'm blessed to be a stay-at-home mom, what can we do to help? Is there, you know, principals, please let your teachers know if there's a need that us parents can meet. Please send out emails. Like I said, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I would love to help out in any way possible. Since my daughter was in 7th grade, Tabb Middle was her first public school, and I couldn't speak better things about a public school. I understand it's my job to teach my children. I am blessed that you guys, that I am able to hand over those reins to our York County teachers. But what can we do to help? And also, I understand a lot of parents are dual income families. Is there a way, without the schools taking on any liability, that information of like, I would have no problem some of my son's classmates coming over to my house if their parents work. I understand that my son's a 13-year-old. He has a 504 in place. He's not, I would not want to leave him home by himself every other day. I understand it's different, but is there a way that we can get out information to other parents that, hey, if you need someone to watch your kid, Or if you need someone to make a phone call because you can't stop in the middle of work to check on your kid. Is there a way we can pass around parent information for the parents who are able to do those type of things?
I'm almost in tears. That is what makes our community wonderful. We have had such an outpouring from our parents and all of our community members. Thank you for that, and thank you for your compliments. I'm sure on Dr. Chandler's behalf, thank you for all of the compliments you provided to us. And I was just looking at the two principals, and they were talking about their PTSA, their PTA. I think working through them in some respects about what the needs are, how we can help. Also, just reach out directly to these principals who will connect you to the right people. Absolutely. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for to the YCSD team. You've done a great job in a small amount of time, and I know decisions had to be made on the fly. I know this will be a fluid situation for the foreseeable future. One thing I did want to ask about, though, is these Saturdays. I know the thing was we wanted to keep, spring break because of the inconvenience that people may have had. How is that decision come to? Because I didn't receive any information on a poll or whatever. I'm assuming this was an assumption, and it does affect my family, and I'm sure many others on their Saturdays when they have so many extracurricular activities. I personally would much rather give up spring break than the Saturdays for the family. So I know the next 2 weeks nothing can be changed because we talked about that. And I know that would only give us 5 out of the 10 days. Now, of course, we've talked about doing the online educational stuff. So that would, if we got rid of those 5, we have the 2, so that leaves us 3 days that we have to make up with the online stuff. Is that something that you all would consider maybe taking a poll to see exactly if it would be less harmful for families to jettison the Saturdays and take over the other?
All right, thank you for that. I would say, as far as parent input, there may have been an assumption there, but that was based on previous polling that we've done of families when we were asking about what were your priorities and calendars. So that was something I was thinking. And then also that our staff, that commitment is also to our staff that have repeatedly talked about how important spring break is, even to the extent of wanting to have a shortened day on the Friday beforehand. So that's something when we talk about calendars has been a repeating theme. But as we said, after a couple of weeks, we're going to look at this again, and maybe that's something we would reconsider.
Okay. The other thing with us personally, I'd say 7 of those days are accounted for other activities. And what qualifies as an excused absence? Okay.
Yeah, all absences are up to the building principals.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for all the work that you've been doing. Hopefully mine's going to be quick because it piggybacks off the AP. Something that wasn't mentioned was the NIMSY stuff going on and the Saturdays. Do you guys have any information? That was an extra help for those who are going to take the AP test. Are you going to still be able to do that?
Yes, we are.
We're working on a new schedule.
Yes, we are working on it.
Yes.
And we do apologize, we did, that one today, I believe, was canceled. But we are rescheduling that. We actually spoke this morning, the 3 of us, about putting that plan together. My director of secondary instruction, I apologize, she's not here. She is out with the flu. But I actually spoke to her en route, and so she's working on some plans in regards to that. We are committed to NIMSY. They're great partners, and we want our students to be a part of that program. So we will get that back up. We have to look at the times now, right? A little bit. That's a difference now. So, but I think that's just calling and talking with them and getting them to partner with us.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, thank you for the staff and for the communities supported and do the best. Just thank you all for doing the best and making the best decision for everybody. And actually, my main concern has been addressed by the little girl asked about AP courses since like my son AP classes and also, but then missing instructional time also relatively, as you mentioned earlier, that school start later than Northern Virginia or other places, couple of minutes, with so many days missed. So, but the APSN is going to be on, we don't decide, but you already addressed it, so I really thank you. But yeah, I was thinking like, maybe for me wise, a lot of family maybe as well too, we can sacrifice like spring break and stuff. So that's
Okay.
my concern, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I just want to thank everybody for your tireless efforts to make sure that everybody gets back to a schedule. I know I certainly want one for my middle schooler. He's enjoyed this vacation, but it's time for him to get back to school. I have two questions. My first one is, I do have an 8th grader at Grafton Middle School, and his saxophone is at school. So with him coming to Tabb Middle, what is going to happen with them learning, band without an instrument? I know you're fairly certain that, the high school side's gonna get their stuff back pretty quickly, but my concern is him taking classes and him not having his instrument to do so.
Yes, well, I have faith in our band teachers. We have a phenomenal band program in the Grafton zone, and so they are working together. They'll be in the building, and there are things they can do until we get those instruments back in place. And like Mr. Dolak said earlier, that is a priority. Getting the band instruments is a priority, so hopefully we can get them by the end of the week. And my teachers are great. They can do 2 days worth of instruction without that.
Awesome. And then my other question is, I do have a niece who was there when this happened on Monday. Her backpack was left there with a lot of her expensive belongings for class and her main course books. In the event that that had significant damage, what happens to the property if it's something that we can't safely get back for our students?
So one of the things that we have to determine is what's salvageable and what's not. And there are different levels. Depending, the restoration company is prepared to possibly have to launder items or do like an ozone treatment or something like that on it. In the event that something's a loss, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bowen, we are covered for personal loss, for your personal property loss. But, like anything, there will be forms and documentation to go along with that.
This question is more so for Ms. Cataldo, but I do New Horizons, and I get out of New Horizons because I do an AM session class. I'll get out at 10 o'clock. And when I do get released, I provide my own transportation. So when I do get back to Grafton High School, it's around 10:30. So my question is, how's that gonna impact my 3A? Because that's not an easy class, that's anatomy. And I already showed that class late, and then it's still kind of hard to catch up with the 2-hour block. But now it's gonna be less than an hour. So how would that, how would I be able to catch up in that kind of class?
Well, we can definitely talk more one-on-one with your counselor, and just so you know, we're kind of looking at every possible schedule, and we do know that with some of those programs, like you mentioned with New Horizons, it's going to affect some classes, and so we're looking at if there's some courses that can be taught virtually to kind of make up for that. We're looking for different options. I know that's not an option with anatomy. I just want to share what we're looking at, but let's talk and reach out, and then we're going to work with your school counselor to make that work for you.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi there.
Hi. Thank you, your county school division couldn't have chosen a better county to raise my kids in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This question is about subs. I know my son studies in Grafton High, and for one of their classes they had a sub, and I was just wondering, now that we have 2 school divisions and alternate days, could one of the actual teachers help in the place of the sub, because we'll be losing out instruction otherwise?
And Dr. Bladu is going to come up to address that. So I think that is a great suggestion. We actually at our last forum had a retired teacher come up to me, a retired SOA teacher, to say, how can I help our students? And so we're having a lot of these opportunities, and I appreciate that that suggestion. And Dr. Bladu right there, we'll follow up on that. That's a great suggestion.
Hi, so my next question was around SOL dates. Do we know what's going to happen with that, or it's too early to tell?
So our assessment coordinator, for assessment, Lisa Beasley, was out of town. She's back now. And so we will be reaching out to the Department of Education. I've spoken briefly, but we're going to have to look at how the assessments are done. There's lots of options for us. I don't anticipate it will change dates, but it may change how we do this. And so I'm going to let her work through that with Department of Education in regards to our window. Can we extend our window at all? And if we do extend our window, what are our options within the classrooms? We fortunately don't give quite as many assessments now at the high school level as we've given in the past, which is helpful for us as well. But we're certainly going to work on that.
So when
Communication
you say,
will come out to you.
So when you say you won't change the dates, if the date is supposed to be a Tuesday for, say,
Oh yes, we would certainly do that. I mean, we would want those to fall on the days that our students are present.
Okay.
There's a window that the Department of Education gives us, but given our current situation and our timing, I don't know if they might be allowing us a little more flexibility with how far we can look at those assessments.
Okay. And my next question was, I know you've been talking that you're working on the virtual school and, you know, some helping with some structure on the days the kids don't come to school. Do you have like an approximate ETA when we can expect that?
Well, that is a good question. We're beginning our planning. We were really focused on getting our students into school this upcoming week. That's where our primary focus has been. Our Department of Instruction is working hand in hand with our principals to make that a smooth transition. That is something that we're going to begin to really try to develop a concrete plan. I don't have a date for you yet, but I promise I will communicate along the way.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry?
Hello. First, thank you for providing this forum, as a lot of other people have said already. It's great to have your criteria and see what different types of solutions you have considered. I apologize, I'm not a public speaker, obviously.
That's okay, I'm not either.
And nervous, but I am a parent to 2 children in the district, and one of whom is in the gifted program and another is a special needs student. My husband and I chose this district for a reason, and we chose Yorktown because of the quality of the schools. It is the cornerstone of the community, I feel like. So my first part is probably more a comment than it is a question. Regarding the options considered and rejected, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
The portables, non-school sites was considered and rejected, as well as dividing students into multiple schools. And for the portables and non-school sites, logistics, if I heard correctly, was mentioned as an issue. I'm no expert, you all are. I'm sure you considered and looked at case studies of other schools who had done those options, like the Paradise High School in California after the fires. They had drop-in labs 3 weeks after the fires at a local mall, and then after that some period they moved into a converted warehouse. What I'm getting at with the options you considered and rejected, and maybe I'm alone in this, but I would like to hear some stronger rationale for why you dismissed both of those. And then the second part of my question is more of a question. Again, I have a special needs student, and my job is to be an advocate for her and speak for her when she can't. So one of your criteria was mentioned as student safety, and another was mentioned as special needs and special education. So my question, I'm sorry, it's going to sound adversarial.
Can I stop it there and let me take the logistics one, and then you can
sure.
ask the special ed?
Sure.
Okay, so once again, you've got to remember that every school division is different, and so you have different contexts, so I can't speak to what was done in the California district, but what we know about what we have to do with building codes here, and where we're at with the electrical system there, and with the lead time with the providers that we've worked with portables, is that we would need several weeks to get going. And even with the experience, with the example you've got here, it was going to be 3 more weeks at least before you drop those in. And I don't know that specific situation, but because there's no power, there's no cafeteria. There's no way to store food there. There's no way to prep food. And that could possibly be done at a remote kitchen, but that was one that was just dismissed because of the lead time to get to a solution. But I appreciate the suggestion. Now I'll leave it for Dr. Gould to help you with your other question.
Okay, the second part of my question, yeah, I guess is more instructional related. Given that I do have a special needs student who is a 6th grader, I can't give her more responsibilities at home. I can't leave her home alone for 2 days a week, and other parents have to leave their kids 3 days a week. How does that speak to the safety of the student?
So one of the options we shared earlier is we're looking at I believe we've reached out to Champions, that's my understanding, to talk to them about the possibility of helping with childcare. So that might be an option for you as a parent. Certainly, I think Dr. Gould would probably like to speak one-on-one with you about your needs and your unique needs to see if there's any other way we can support you and your family. It's not our intention to, cause that hardship for you, and we certainly want to reach out and talk to you about that.
And as far as the safety criteria, we understand that was primarily the safety in whatever building that they were meeting in.
Right.
However, the situation at home was near the same in the sense there was going to be a time where they were not supervised by an adult. It was just a difference in the amount of time. And I recognize that it was a difference.
I'll just add, we've reached out to Champions, we've reached out to the YMCA, we've reached out to several churches, and we've reached out to Parks and Rec. So we haven't solidified that plan yet, but we are certainly the plans are in the making. So we'll inform parents as soon as we know. So I'm going to do this. We have time for maybe 2 more questions, so we can come over here for our next question. And then if you're in line, when we break the session, please come forward so we can get your name and your question and we can answer.
Hi. So you stated that you anticipate Grafton being ready to be occupied again around the 22nd of May. If that is the case, will the students return to Grafton or will they finish out the school year at the whole school?
Okay. Yes, when the electrical system is restored and after the cleanup is done, then yes, you'll go back to Grafton, and there's a chance, I don't want to make any promises, that would be before that date. Whenever the system is back up and running, the school's ready, we will revert back. And then that would affect any Saturdays that were affected.
Even if it's only for like 2 or 3 weeks, they'll return.
Oh yes, what we want is for Grafton High School students to graduate from Grafton.
Okay.
Last question, yes sir.
Thank you again from all of, speak for all of parents for all the work that your campus school division and also staff did. I have 2 questions. One is a follow-up on that same question, the last question. In case that doesn't happen, like the schools are not ready, does it change the same format, or do we follow the same like Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday?
Yes. In the event that were not to be happening, we would have some advance notice because we can judge that on the delivery of the components that need to come in because there's going to be installation time afterwards. So if we saw a delay in the installation or in the component delivery, then we would have to consider it because we are building the assumption on time based on the return back to regular school on May 26th, right? Yes.
And the second question.
Well, 22nd is the last day, but May 26th would be the date they return to their school after the Memorial Day weekend. And there would have to be an alteration at that point. It would be after spring break, so that then we get into the danger of either a waiver from the state or extending into the summer. Although I know that we are good on graduation, right? That wouldn't be altered by any delay.
Not to my knowledge. We have to confirm with the Department of Education.
Okay, so that would take further consultation, but that's only in the case of that delay. But we feel confident that May 26th is a worst case scenario.
And my next question is about the SOL schedule. If the scheduled date for the SOL does like happen to be in the same day, the day that they are not in the school, how does it affect the date of the school?
We have the opportunity to choose the dates of our SOLs. The state gives us a window of time, and then we set up that schedule. And so right now we have our schedule set up, but what we'll need to do now is to look, and we're going to pay very close attention to the work that's being done at the complex. If we continue with the May 22nd date, but going in on the 26th, we will adjust that. If it looks like we're going to be in sooner, we're going to adjust that. We want to do this in the least, the least burdensome way to our students and our parents. We will communicate clearly and in plenty of time for you, but we also will make sure that it's done in a way that is at the time that our students are in the schools. You're welcome.
A lot of parents are concerned about sports.
I do understand that, and that's what I was going to say. I'm going to get you, is your question related to instruction?
It's about sports.
Okay, give me 1 second. I know we have those questions, so, and we did not get a chance. We really did want to get to our extracurricular activities. So here's what we want to do. We know there's some folks with that. We're not going to stop talking. We may not be able to get this all on our Facebook Live feed tonight, but we're going to say Dr. Butler and his team are going to take the extracurricular and athletics questions over in that corner. We're going to have some instruction people still over here, especially the principals and anybody else who needs that thing. So if you have questions we have not gotten to yet, we're going to keep talking to you here. But we do know we're going to be shutting down our Facebook Live here in a moment, and then we're going to continue to hold events and share information. Anything we did not get to today is going to be posted on our website. If you'll just please come forward. Dr. Shandor has one more thing he wants to say before you guys move too much. Thank you.
I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you being a partner, letting us be a partner in your time.